Hi friends, welcome to Storytime. I'm so glad that you're here. I have another Christmas story time for you. This one I'm going to call Must Be Santa because I have 3 books for you today and they are all about Santa. So let's read this one first. This one is really old. Do you know Santa Mouse by Michael Brown? This book is so old. It would have been written way back before your parents were little kids. Way back. It's such an old book, but it's still such a good story. So let's read Santa Mouse. Once there was a little mouse who didn't have a name. Oh, that poor mouse. He lived in a great big house, this mouse, the only mouse in the whole wide house. He used to play a game. He daydreamed he had playmates who were friendly as can be, while some of them would bring their dolls and dress up and have tea. There were others who'd play cowboys or be Inuit or Spanish. But when he tried to touch them, like a bubble, they would vanish. Now through the year, this little mouse had saved one special thing, a piece of cheese. The kind that makes an angel want to sing. On Christmas Eve, he brushed his teeth. Isn't he cute? Brushed his teeth and washed his paws. He thought, my goodness, no one gives a gift to Santa Claus. We're always thinking about what Santa's going to bring us, but what about leaving something for Santa? He ran to get his pretty cheese, and after he had found it, the paper from some chewing gum, he quickly wrapped around it. And then he climbed in bed and dreamed that he was lifted high. He woke to find that he was looking right in Santa's eye. I thank you for my gift, said Santa. Tell me what's your name? I haven't any, said the mouse. You haven't? That's a shame. You know I need a helper as I travel house to house, and I shall give a name to you. I'll call you Santa Mouse. So here's your beard and here's your suit and here's each shiny tiny boot. You mustn't sneeze and don't you cough. Just put them on and we'll be off. Then over all the rooftops on a journey with no end, away they went together, Santa with his tiny friend. And so this Christmas, if you please, beneath that tree that's in your house, why don't you leave a piece of cheese? You know who will thank you? Santa Mouse. Look at little Santa Mouse. Did you like that one? Even though it's really an old story, it's such a good one. All right, now we're gonna read a newer one. This one is called Christmas for Greta and Gracie by Yasmin Ismail. And this story makes me laugh, and I want to see if it makes you laugh too. Christmas for Greta and Gracie. Did you know that Santa eats marshmallows for breakfast? Greta and Gracie were sisters. This is Greta and this is Gracie. Greta was bigger because she was 1 year, 6 months, and 3 days older than Gracie. They both had the same smile, the same hoppity skip walk, and their names both began with G too. But When I was your age, I was much taller than you are. I could even reach the kitchen counter on my tippy toes. It's nice being taller. It makes me look more elegant, don't you think? Anyway, it must be so hard being so short. Greta was chitty-chatty, and Gracie was quiet. That was just fine because Greta loved talking to Gracie, and Gracie loved listening. Most of the time. It was Christmas Eve, and Greta and Gracie were busy coloring. Greta had the red, green, yellow, blue, and black crayons. Gracie had the brown crayon. I love Christmas, Gracie. I can't wait for Santa to bring my present. I've already written my letter. Have you? I've asked for an orange tricycle with gold streamers and a basket for Freddie the Teddy. It wouldn't be very safe to ride my bike with Freddie the Teddy under my arm. I hope Santa remembers that I need a new coat and matching gloves too. Gracie was still coloring. She wanted her picture to be just right. Do you think Santa has a bike? Don't be silly, Gracie. Santa has a sleigh, not a bike, and his boots are black, not brown. Anyway, coloring is boring. Let's go outside. What do you think of Gracie and Greta so far? Greta seems like she could be a lot for a big sister, but let's find out. So Greta and Gracie put on their jackets and went to help decorate the big tree in the village. Do you think Santa decorates his Christmas tree? I don't think so. He has elves to do things like that. Did you know that there are 597 elves at the North Pole? Or maybe it's 598. Gracie found the star in the big box of decorations. She was just getting ready to climb the ladder and put it on the tree when Greta came over. I'll do it, Gracie. You're too little, and I've climbed ladders before. I'll put it on the tree, and then we'll go to the store. So Greta put the star at the top of the tree. The store was very busy. Gracie wanted to buy some red ribbon for wrapping presents, but it was too noisy. Excuse me, Mrs. Goose. Excuse me, Mrs. Goose. I'll do it. You're too quiet. And anyway, Santa only likes gold ribbon. So Greta asked for the gold ribbon. How would you describe Greta? To me, she seems a little bossy. What do you think? Mrs. Goose chatted to Gracie as she carefully counted out her coins. You must be excited for Christmas, Gracie. What do you think Santa is like? Oh, Santa is wonderful. He is the best and nicest man, and he has a sleigh and reindeer, and he gives presents to good little girls and good little boys, and he has a hat and a red coat and big white bushy beard, and he eats cookies. You can write him a letter, and he'll come and visit and say, ho, 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 and he put things in stockings, and he wears black boots, and he has big buttons on his coat. He is magic, says Gracie. On the way home, Greta said they should go ice skating. Let's go fast. Can you twirl as quick as me? No, Gracie, like this, and now stand on one leg, like this, and stretch your arms like this, like this. Greta is a lot, isn't she? She is so chatty, and poor Gracie. But Gracie decided to go very slowly on the ice. I don't like going fast. It makes me feel wobbly in my tummy. I might fall over. Do you think Santa likes to skate? Santa is a champion skater, but Gracie, you're still not doing it right. Do it fast, faster. Oh, I'll do it myself. You're too slow. See what happens. That night, Gracie was listening to Greta snore when Gracie heard a funny noise. Could that be Santa? I must not wake up Greta. It's good to be slow. Gracie slipped out of bed and opened the bedroom door very carefully so it didn't squeak. She tiptoed along the hallway so her feet didn't make a single sound. I must not make a noise. It's good to be quiet. Do Do you notice that she's finding all those things that Greta told her weren't good are good? The living room door was open a tiny bit and Gracie squeezed through the crack. I can just fit through. It's good to be little. And there, through the doorway, she saw... Who do you think she saw? Santa Claus. Hello, Gracie. What a good thing that you're here. Would you like to help me? It's you, says Gracie. So Gracie helped Santa with all the presents. Then they ate cookies, drank milk, and talked about all sorts of things until it was time for Santa to go on his way. The next morning, Greta woke Gracie up very early. He came. He was here, Gracie. The cookies have all been eaten, so he must have liked them. And there are lots of presents under the tree. I haven't counted them all, but there are a lot. I hope the big ones are for me. We've both got full stockings, too. Around the tree, there were 2 full stockings and a pile of presents. Look, this one's for you, Gracie. I'll read the label. Dear Gracie, thank you for your help. It was very nice to meet you. Love, Santa. You met Santa Claus? Yes, I did. He was sitting right here, and he had brown boots and a red coat and a big sack full of presents that had red ribbon and gold ribbon and blue ribbon and green ribbon and all the ribbons. And he told me all about his reindeer and what they liked to eat, and he was really nice, and he had a big white beard and twinkly eyes. And he asked me to help him. Come on, Greta, let's open our presents. What do you think Greta's going to say to that? And for once, Greta did not say one single word. Merry Christmas. So what's the lesson in this book? What are you supposed to learn from this story? I think you're supposed to learn that sometimes it's okay to be yourself. And if you're quiet or small, that's okay. And that there are certain situations that those things are really good. You don't have to be fast and loud and big to be better at something. And so I hope Greta learned a lesson that Gracie is wonderful just the way she is. All right, one last book. This is a personal favorite, of course. The Day Santa Stopped Believing in Harold by Maureen Fergus. Santa stopped believing in Harold? One stormy night, very close to Christmas, Santa and Mrs. Claus were sitting in their cozy little log cabin at the North Pole. Mrs. Claus was busy mending the seam of Santa's 4th best pair of red velvet pants. Santa was supposed to be going over the roster for this year's sleigh team. Instead, he was moping. Have you ever seen a Santa who was moping? Something must really be wrong. Several times, Mrs. Claus asked Santa what was wrong. Each time he muttered nothing and then sighed loudly. Finally, Mrs. Claus said, Papa, I can't help you if you won't tell me what the problem is. All right, said Santa with another sigh. Well, you know Harold. Mrs. Claus smiled. Brown hair, freckles, lost a tooth last week, sometimes forgets to... Stop, interrupted Santa in a choked voice. Don't say another word. You don't need to keep pretending on my account because I don't believe in Harold anymore. Mrs. Claus stared at Santa as though he'd suddenly sprouted antlers. Look, Harold has always been a big part of my Christmas, and I still like the idea of Harold, explained Santa. But lately, I've come to realize that there are a lot of things about Harold that just don't make sense. Like what? Asked Mrs. Claus. For one thing, I'm pretty sure his mom writes his Santa letter, said Santa. So what if she does, said Mrs. Claus. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe not, said Santa, but what about the snack, huh? What about that? What about it? Asked Mrs. Claus. I think Harold's dad lays out my snack on Christmas Eve, whispered Santa dramatically. Think about it. Harold is way too small to lift a big carton of milk. He can barely hold his own head up. Papa, Harold isn't a baby anymore. Yes, well, that's another thing, isn't it, said Santa. That Harold who sat on my knee at the mall last year didn't even look like the real Harold. Harold is a real person, Papa, said Mrs. Claus. Real people look different from year to year. Santa wasn't listening. You know what's going on here, don't you? He said. Harold's parents are trying to trick me into believing in him. And just why would they want to do that? Asked Mrs. Claus. They think that if I know the truth about Harold, Christmas will be ruined for me, cried Santa. Either that or they want the Harold gifts all for themselves. Mrs. Claus shook her head and said, You know what you're doing, don't you? You're looking for reasons not to believe in Harold instead of just accepting him as one of the best, most magical parts of Christmas. Santa looked uncomfortable and maybe even a little uncertain, but all he said was, I know what I know. The terrible news traveled like a spooked Arctic hare. Santa had stopped believing in children. Not all children, Santa assured Merpin, the elf supervisor in the computer gizmo department. Just Harold. Uh-huh, said Merpin. And you know what else, said Santa. I'm not the only one who doesn't believe in him. My friends don't believe in him either. Uh-huh, said Merpin. Jack Frost says his mom and dad told him that Harold doesn't exist, and the abominable snow monster says only a baby would believe in Harold. Uh-huh, said Merpin. Do I look like a baby to you? Boomed Santa. Merpin stared at Santa's twinkling eyes, rosy cheeks, and jiggly jelly belly. Forget I asked, sniffed Santa. I'm going to talk to the reindeer. The reindeer listened carefully to Santa's evidence against the existence of Harold. Then they whispered among themselves for a few minutes. Finally, Donner said, On the one hand, we're not convinced that Harold is real. I knew it, said Santa unhappily. On the other hand, continued Donner, we're not convinced that Harold isn't real. So what are you saying? Asked Santa. What we're saying is that you need proof, said Donner. And we think we know just how you can get it. Now, strange as it seems, while Santa was up north telling Mrs. Claus and the elves and the reindeer that he didn't think Harold was real, Harold was down south telling his parents and his friends and his turtle that he didn't think Santa was real. Deep in his heart, Harold wanted to believe in Santa, but the older Harold got the harder it was for him to just have faith. What I need is proof, thought Harold, and I think I know just how to get it. That Christmas Eve, Harold hung his stocking, helped set out the Santa snack, and hugged his parents goodnight just like he did every Christmas Eve. On that particular night, however, after his mom and dad had gone to bed, Harold tiptoed back into the front room and hid behind the armchair across from the fireplace. If Santa is real, thought Harold drowsily, I will definitely be able to see him coming. What do you think? Do you think he's going to see Santa? Many hours later, Santa and the reindeer touched down on the roof of Harold's house, which Santa had saved for last. Santa's plan was to hide in Harold's front room and see if Harold ran out of his bedroom on Christmas morning. If he did, Santa would know that Harold was real. If he didn't, Harold's parents would have some explaining to do. After settling into his hiding spot, Santa tried to stay awake, but it was extremely warm and cozy in Harold's front room. And Santa was very tired after his hard night's work. Slowly, he closed his sleepy eyes. The next thing Santa knew, it was Christmas morning. Too bad we don't know any little boys who'd like to open some presents from Santa, said Harold's mom, who'd spotted Harold hiding behind the armchair. Aha, thought Santa. Too bad there are no presents from Santa, whispered Harold's. Too bad there are no presents from Santa, whispered Harold's father. Oops, thought Santa, who'd forgotten to set out the gifts before hiding. I don't care about presents, said Harold as he slowly stood up. I just wanted to see Santa, and I didn't. At the sound of Harold's voice, Santa's heart gave a wild leap. What do you think Santa says? You're real! He shouted joyfully as he jumped up from behind the sofa. Harold's mother screamed. Harold's father sprayed coffee everywhere. Harold's face lit up like a Christmas tree. You're real, he shouted, running over to give Santa a hug. After Harold and Santa got over the shock of finding out that each of them had thought that the other wasn't real, they sat on the floor reading comics, playing with toys, and licking candy canes until the sound of tiny hooves impatiently stomping on the roof reminded Santa that it was time to go home. Goodbye, Harold. Goodbye, Harold's parents, cried Santa as he prepared to magic himself up the chimney. Goodbye, Santa, cried Harold. See you next Christmas morning. Unless you'd rather fall asleep behind someone else's sofa, cried his parents. Santa's big booming laugh rang out once, shaking the walls and knocking several glass ornaments off the tree. And then, in the wink of an eye, he was gone. The end. What do you think of that story? I love this one because Santa and Harold get to meet each other. And that is so exciting and the magic of Christmas. So, I will have one more story time for you on Christmas Eve. So be watching and I'll see you then.